Welcome to my fourth and final part of my Marvel Animated Universe montage. We end on a high note with everyone's favourite wall crawler, Spider-Man. The amazing, the spectacular, the astonishing, probably the most popular Marvel superhero of all time. Heck, even probably the most popular superhero ever, Spider-Man. He has had quite the long and storied history in entertainment, from the comic books to the big screen movies and the countless merch produced, including the toys, and yes, the horrible 70s TV show. Here today I focus on my favourite medium, the cartoons, and specifically the 1994 animated series. Now this was the longest running Spider-Man animated show at 65 episodes, until it was surpassed by 2012's Ultimate Spider-Man, which ran for 104 episodes. What? I beg your pardon? 104 episodes? It went on that long? Oh my god. Sorry. The show really put the emphasis on the character's double life as Spider-Man and Peter Parker. From the villains, helping his Aunt May, his job at the Daily Bugle dealing with J. Jonah Jameson, his love life, his complicated friendship with Harry Osborn. They both started out as best friends, and then became love rivals, and then ending up as out-and-out enemies when Harry became the second iteration of the Green Goblin. Now that is quite the drama. Unlike previous Spider-Man cartoons, this show pulled a lot of its source material from the comic books, and it was all adapted accordingly. The 3-story arc on Eddie Brock becoming Venom was one of my personal favourites. What I was personally impressed by was this whole arc took 4 years of comic stories and condensed them into 3 episodes, and executed 2 plots in the process. The first being Peter's run as the Black Spider, whilst also introducing Venom into the show. This was my personal introduction to Venom in Spider-Man lore, and he has since remained my favourite Spider-Man villain. Really hoping one day we can get that Tom Holland and Tom Hardy movie crossover, because that would be amazing. The action was very fast-paced and fun to watch, but also it had its fair share of drama.
Well, I know something's wrong. She's never gone for this long without calling me. Oh, my poor niece. She's out there somewhere. She could be in danger or worse. Why weren't you there to look after her? Oh!
Time and time again he contemplated giving up being Spider-Man, but he stuck by that very famous saying, and I think you all know what it is by now.
But with great power, there must also come great responsibility.
Growing up with Spider-Man, I personally can't overstate how much he influenced my love of superheroes. Through him, he was like a doorway into the world of Marvel as I was introduced to other characters from the comic books. The 1980 shows had appearances from Iron Man, Captain America, Doctor Doom, Magneto, and the X-Men. And as is the norm, the series had a ton of guest crossovers and even introduced me to yet another Marvel element in Doctor Strange. There's a special 2-parter involving the X-Men, and what made it even better was it was the voice actors from the 90s X-Men show, which really made it feel like a shared universe.
Spider-Man!
Oh, tell us, why are you here?
None of your business. Who are you guys anyway?
Name's Road Sugar. You seem kind of cute in a creepy sort of way. Maybe y'all will tell me what you're up to,
He ain't gonna talk. How about we go digging for an explanation?
There was a 2-story arc involving Iron Man and War Machine, which saw Venom make his return and introduced another villain from Spider-Man's rogue gallery in Carnage. And like they did with the X-Men, the voice actors were pulled straight from the 94 Iron Man cartoon show, with Tony Hayes reprising his role as Iron Man, and the late great legend James Avery as War Machine. My favourite crossover from the series was the 3-part story The Secret Wars, a mini take from the comic series of the 1980s which sees the Fantastic Four appear alongside Captain America, Iron Man, Storm of the X-Men, the Lizard, and the Black Cat. It was quite the mega crossover. The only thing missing from that was the other Avengers and the X-Men. Now, wouldn't that have been something? I loved some of the ongoing stories as this gave the show a great sense of continuity. A very popular comic arc that they managed to adapt was the Spider Wars, with the different iterations of Spider-Man, I loved personally the Ben Reilly inclusion as it served as a homage to the comics.
When I became a costume hero, the Scarlet Spider, it really made him angry. But the next big blow came from Dr. Kurt Connors. He discovered that, according to our genetic structures, it might be Peter who was the clone, not me. That news pushed Peter Parker over the edge. Now he hated me with a passion. This is starting to sound like a bad comic book plot.
Then there was the 3-part story from Season 2's Neo-Genetic Nightmare run, which saw Peter slowly but surely transform into the Man-Spider. This particular run of episodes spooked me when I was younger. I kid you not, my heart was beating at 1,000 beats per minute. It was that intense. Another brilliant aspect of the Spider-Man series was the vast array of villains. As far as solo heroes go, I think he has the greatest group ever. Batman does provide some stiff competition. With every episode or story arcs, it was always a case of, okay, which villain is it going to be this time? It is incredible how they managed to fit so many villains into this series and give the characters some background, as opposed to just being, basic supervillain. Then there were the ladies. Felicia Hardy, who would go on to be the Black Cat. Gwen Stacy, who doesn't really play a huge factor in this series. And of course, his greatest love, Mary Jane Watson. And this had its share of ups and downs during the show's run. For somebody who was depicted as a nerd, he was quite the catch for the girls. And if you're a hardcore comic book reader, you know this show just touched on some of the many relationships he had in the comics. He was quite the stud. It is very debatable which was the best adaptation of Spider-Man. The younger generation will likely side with Ultimate Spider-Man. Others would argue that Spectacular Spider-Man has that honor. Now, if that show, Spectacular Spider-Man, had the same run of episodes, I might have to think it over. But in my mind, there is no doubt that Spider-Man TAS takes the top spot. The show remained consistent throughout its whole run, and unlike the Hulk, Iron Man, and even the X-Men, it doesn't have any changes in pace, tone, look, animation or feel. It stays the same throughout. The final season did feel a bit rushed, especially the Secret Wars and the Spider-War stories. Considering the vast history from the comic books about these two particular arcs, they could have adapted them and it could have provided an entire separate season on its own. But unfortunately, due to the show not getting renewed, this is how everything went down. Now, according to Wikipedia, the show's cancellation was due to disagreements between executive producer Avi Arad and network head Margaret Loesch. And one of the best parts of the whole series for me personally was an appearance from the great man himself, Stan Lee, which was such a great touch given it was the final episode. And of course they just had to get in that little wink wink nudge nudge with his real life wife Joan, who was voicing Madam Web.
Stan Lee, he's quite a guy.
I think he's truly special.
If I had to pick out some flaws, it would be this. I really wish there could have been more episodes. I think this was one of those shows that fell into the category of it ended way too soon. The pace of the show at times went a little too fast for my liking. Some of the voice acting wasn't the best, but that said, the star of the show, Christopher Daniel Bond, is absolutely brilliant as Peter Parker / Spider-Man. To me, he is to Spider-Man what Kevin Conroy is to Batman. It's just a great fit.
It just isn't in you, because it isn't in me. And you are me.
I'm more you than you'd ever admit.
And maybe you're being overtaken by the symbiote. There's only one way I can find out. I need to reach the real Peter Parker inside of you. The one who cares about the people around him.
He's gone for good.
Is he? I know he won't talk to me, but I brought along somebody that he might want to talk to.
Overall, it's one of the greatest superhero cartoon shows of all time, and thanks to Disney+, both newcomers and oldies can binge the entire series and relive that great nostalgia from the 90s. Spider-Man, the animated series, a brilliantly executed show. One of my favourites of all time.